Life lesson stories have the power to transform us, but some start with pain. Imagine being judged every day by your appearance, feeling looks of disdain, and carrying invisible scars from prejudice. That was Samantha's reality, a short-statured girl, target of cruel laughter and loneliness. What no one expected was that, even while wounded, she would find within herself something greater than rejection, the strength to change lives. Stick around until the end and discover how her courage saved jobs, tore down masks, and proved that true love is born when we learn to see beyond appearances. This channel is just getting started, and you can be part of this growth. Support our work so we can bring you more moving stories like Samantha's. When Samantha first walked into the hallways of that school, many students looked at her with curiosity, others with indifference, and some, unfortunately, with cruelty. Her short stature, a result of dwarfism, seemed to others like permission to mock her. Muffled giggles, malicious whispers, and even cruel nicknames became part of her daily routine. Every step she took down the hallways was a test of emotional endurance. She tried to blend in, tried to be just another student, but the feeling of always being apart was unavoidable. Many kept their distance without even getting to know her. And though she was young, she had already learned a hard lesson: prejudice hurts most when it comes silently, when it's felt in the avoidance of a glance or the empty chair beside her. But Samantha refused to be broken. At home, she dove into books, made colorful summaries, and turned difficulties into learning opportunities. Her mind was restless, creative, and carried a rare ability to understand complex subjects and explain them simply. This skill began to draw unexpected attention. It all started one afternoon during exams, when Peter, a classmate always in trouble, desperately asked her to explain a math problem. Samantha took a deep breath and, within minutes, managed to turn what seemed impossible into something clear. The result was immediate. Peter got the question right and stood there amazed at how easily she had explained it. Days later, it was Ralph's turn, another student who constantly racked up failing grades. He watched her from afar, perhaps with some initial prejudice, but decided to ask for help. Without hesitation, Samantha sat down with him, reviewed formulas, reorganized ideas, and finally helped him understand concepts that had previously seemed like a maze. What took teachers weeks to teach, she accomplished in just a few hours. These two incidents began to change how some people saw her. For the first time, a few classmates realized that this girl wasn't just the different one, but someone with extraordinary intelligence and, above all, generosity to share without expecting anything in return. It was as if, with each explanation, she was also reclaiming something of herself, the desire to be seen beyond her appearance. Despite that, the pain didn't vanish overnight. There were still hurtful comments, still exclusions from group projects, and glances that stung. But Samantha, quietly, turned every wound into fuel. Each time someone tried to diminish her, she rose higher, armed with more knowledge, more empathy. Her heart was full of love. Not the kind of love limited to pretty words, but the kind expressed through simple gestures, giving time to those in need, listening without judgment, explaining something for the third time without losing patience. It was this essence that began to captivate those willing to look beyond appearances. What no one knew at that moment was that those small acts of kindness and dedication were only the beginning of something much bigger. Because Samantha wouldn't just change Peter and Ralph's grades. She was about to alter the course of an entire school, and, in the process, prove that even pain can become the seed of great transformation. Teacher Elizabeth had always paid attention to details. Many students went unnoticed amid the daily routine, but Samantha had something different. It wasn't just her intelligence that stood out, it was how she used knowledge to help others. While others sought individual recognition, Samantha shared whatever little she had, patiently explaining things to whoever needed it. Elizabeth realized there was more here than just a hard-working student. there was a young woman capable of transforming the environment around her. That's when she decided to act. She called Samantha in for a talk, praised her dedication, and invited her to assist with after-school tutoring sessions. Samantha could have backed down. She could have remembered all the times she'd been ridiculed by classmates. But her heart spoke louder. She accepted without hesitation. For her, teaching was more than an obligation. It was a chance to prove that her difference wasn't a burden, but a gift. From that moment on, every meeting became special. Peter, who previously could barely focus, began to see real progress. Ralph, who'd always carried the label of being lazy, discovered that with the right guidance, he could understand even the most complex subjects. Little by little, that tutoring group became much more than just a study room. It turned into a space of friendship, trust, and respect. And it was in this setting that one of the biggest turning points emerged. Lucy, the school's cheerleading captain, known for her shallow charm and for treating others with disdain, was facing a silent crisis. She'd been betrayed by people close to her and was at risk of losing her leadership position, something she'd always used as a symbol of power. On top of that, her grades were plummeting, and without improvement, the administration wouldn't hesitate to remove her from the team. For Lucy, admitting weakness felt humiliating. Always used to being the center of attention, the idea of asking for help seemed impossible. But desperation spoke louder. One afternoon, her voice heavy with wounded pride, she went to Samantha. She expected resistance, maybe even contempt. After all, she'd been part of the group that laughed at her in the hallways. But Samantha surprised her. Instead of retaliating or refusing, she offered a sincere smile. There was no judgment in her eyes, only a willingness to reach out. She agreed to help, as if that past of mockery had never existed. And in that gesture, something greater than simple generosity was revealed, proof that love and empathy don't pick and choose who deserves them. Lucy was thrown off balance. Used to manipulating others and using people for her own benefit, she didn't know how to respond to such genuine kindness. With each study session, her mask of arrogance slowly crumbled. Samantha didn't just explain formulas or correct exercises, she listened, encouraged, and showed that it was possible to start over. The transformation didn't happen overnight, but it was undeniable. For the first time, Lucy felt accepted without having to pretend. It was as if Samantha had opened a window to a version of herself she'd never allowed to exist. Teacher Elizabeth, watching from afar, understood she'd made the right choice. Samantha's gift wasn't just in learning, it was in touching hearts, even those that seemed unreachable. This was only the beginning of a quiet revolution that would change the entire school. Because sometimes, the greatest life lessons don't come from easy victories, but from the courage to offer support even to those who once hurt us. While Samantha devoted herself to helping classmates and even transforming Lucy's life, something bigger was quietly unfolding behind the scenes at the school. Teachers were under immense pressure, academic performance had been declining year after year, and the district was already talking about cutting classes and laying off staff. For many, it felt like an unavoidable sentence. But inspiration came from where no one expected, from a student who, not long ago, had been the target of laughter and exclusion. Moved by the results Samantha had achieved with Peter, Ralph, and Lucy, teacher Elizabeth shared with other educators the simple, creative, and empathetic way the young girl explained lessons. Instead of repeating tired formulas, Samantha adapted her language, created analogies, and made every subject accessible. The teachers, caught between desperation and hope, decided to apply the same methods in their classrooms. The results were astonishing. Within months, grades began to rise consistently. Students who had been on the verge of repeating the year were now showing real progress. The school, once marked by failure, climbed into the top 10 in the district. The threat of layoffs was lifted, and for the first time in a long while, teachers felt they had a secure future ahead. This moment was more than just an academic victory. It was a life lesson for everyone, proof that love, when expressed through patience, empathy, and dedication, has the power to turn around even the most hopeless situations. Samantha didn't just change report card grades, she saved careers, restored hope for adults, and showed that every act of kindness can create ripples that spread far beyond what we imagine. But the biggest surprise was still to come. The calendar marked a special day for Samantha, Gotcha Day, the anniversary of her official adoption. For her, this date was already deeply meaningful, but she had no idea what was waiting for her. When she walked into the auditorium, thinking she was attending a simple meeting, she was met with a scene that left her speechless. The lights, the smiles, the applause, everything had been secretly prepared. Those who once isolated her were now there to celebrate her life. Classmates who used to look away made sure to be present. The teachers she'd inspired held up signs of gratitude. Even Peter and Ralph, who owed so much to her, gave emotional speeches. The atmosphere was one of redemption. What had once been pain was now transformed into recognition. The bullies had been pushed aside, true friendships were blooming, and even Lucy, once so arrogant, faced the consequences of her choices after being caught cheating and losing her cheerleading captain title. Everything seemed to symbolize a collective turning point, as if every injustice done to Samantha had been transformed into strength for a better future. Standing before the cake, surrounded by voices now cheering her name, Samantha couldn't hold back her tears. With a smile full of pride and humility, she made a wish that wasn't a secret, to be accepted and loved for exactly who she was. But in that moment, she looked around and realized that wish had already come true. Her simple, yet deeply emotional words echoed through the auditorium. My greatest gift is being here, with all of you, and knowing I'm valued exactly as I am. It was as if those words closed a chapter, turning pain into victory, prejudice into unity, and loneliness into love. What happened that day wasn't just a surprise party. It was the recognition that differences, when viewed with empathy, can bring an entire community together. It was more than a celebration of Samantha, it was living proof that the greatest life lessons aren't found in books, but in the people who choose to love despite everything. This story is a true life lesson. It teaches us that love goes far beyond movie romance or easy promises. Love is respect, it's empathy, it's the courage to look at someone and see worth where many only see difference. Samantha, who began by being ridiculed for her height, showed us that physical limitations don't define a person, it's the size of the heart that truly matters. Throughout her journey, she proved that differences shouldn't be treated as barriers. On the contrary, they can become powerful bridges, capable of bringing people closer and even rebuilding an entire community. In a school once filled with inequality, mockery, and low grades, Samantha became a beacon of light. Through her dedication and generosity, she didn't just help struggling classmates, she inspired teachers to believe again in their mission. And in the end, she saved jobs, restored dignity, and brought back hope. But perhaps the greatest lesson lies in the simple act of reaching out to someone who once turned their back on you. By helping Lucy, the very cheer captain who had so often deepened her loneliness, Samantha proved that empathy is stronger than pride, and that true love can break through even the hardest masks. It's not about forgetting the wounds, but choosing not to let them define who we are. This is the essence of life, choices. Every day, we stand at a crossroads, to reject or to welcome, to judge or to love. Often, these decisions seem small, but they can change destinies in ways we can't even imagine. Samantha's classmates, who once only watched her from afar, had to choose between perpetuating prejudice or embracing transformation. And by choosing love, they discovered true friendship, a stronger community, and a more promising future. That's why Samantha's journey echoes far beyond the walls of that school. She represents every person who has ever felt diminished, isolated, or judged. She also represents every opportunity we have to change someone's life with a simple gesture, a word of encouragement, or the decision not to turn away from another's pain. What makes this story so unforgettable is that it doesn't end with Samantha's victory alone. It ends with the victory of everyone touched by her courage and kindness. Because when we choose to truly love, we create ripples that reach places we never imagined. And that may be the greatest life lesson of all: pure love doesn't just transform one person, it transforms the entire world around them. If you've made it this far, you've probably already realized how special this story is. And more than that, maybe you've reflected on your own choices, how you respond to differences, and how you can spread more empathy in your daily life. That's the beauty of stories carrying deep lessons. They don't end when the video stops, they stay alive inside us. So if this story touched your heart, don't stop here. Stay with us, we still have many more inspiring stories to share. Stories full of life lessons and love, capable of reigniting hope and reminding us that, in the end, this is what makes us truly human. This channel is just getting started, and you can be part of this growth. Support our work so we can bring you more moving stories like Samantha's. Subscribe, share with your friends, and leave a like. It makes all the difference in helping us continue this journey together.